Tyson, you ready?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Preliminary matters on the AM docket, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, case number 2, 2401 Bel Air Road, a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license and application to transfer ownership has been postponed. Call the case of Broadway North Shed LLC, trade name pending, 1640 Alisana Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license under Article 12-903, small c, number 2, small I, and 12-1609, small b. The board may issue an additional Class B beer, wine, and liquor license to a current Class B beer, wine, and liquor license holder if the new establishment has 1, minimum capital investment of $500,000 for restaurant facilities, which may not include the costs of land or buildings, and 2, minimum seating capacity for 125 individuals, requesting outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Please come forward.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. For all those who have hearings before the board today, we're being recorded as well as televised, so when you do come forward, you'll have to be sworn, and then if you would speak into the microphone when you testify and state your name, and we have a reporter here to my left who may need you to spell your name if it's not obvious how to spell it. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Joseph Woolman. I represent the applicant in this matter. I have some preliminary exhibits to put into the record,
Okay.
Copies for the Commissioners and staff.
Thank you. Pass one of these to Ms. Russell so that we have. Yes. And would you all raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I've handed over renderings and some floor plans. The floor plans, I believe, were previously filed. There's also a packet of letters of support and I believe emails of support as well. We also have a history that we'll introduce regarding the administration's community outreach in this matter. This project is a project that the Mayor and City Council have embarked upon, as this property is owned by the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore, and the market, as you know, is run by the Baltimore Public Markets Corporation. Mr. Robert Thomas, the head of BPMC, is here along with our applicant, Mr. Philip Hahn, who's standing to my right. We have a second applicant who is not present, who is our city resident. That is Mr. Joseph Piazza, but it is Mr. Hahn that will be the operator of the license. The premises, and I'll introduce a copy of this outline as well for the record, and if it would please the commissioners, I'll proffer the majority of its material, and if you have questions, obviously, for the applicant, Mr. Thomas, they'd be happy to answer them. We also have 2 witnesses in support of the project that are in attendance today. The licensed premises is located at 1640 Alisana Street. It's also known as the North Shed of the Broadway Market. This is located in the 46 Alcoholic Beverage District. The board may recall back in June, I believe you granted a Class B license to the South Shed of the market, and that was for a concept, I think, that's going to be called the Chop Tank from the Atlas Restaurant Group. This is a similar request regarding the type of license. It's a little bit different type of project, and we're happy to answer any questions you have regarding that. The application is for a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license requesting outdoor table service, off-premises catering, delivery of alcoholic beverages. Pursuant to the Alcoholic Beverages Article of the Maryland Code, Sections 12903C2I and 12604C1-2, the requirements for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor license are capital investment of at least $500,000, not including the cost of the land, the building, or improvements other than to the interior of the building, and we've submitted previously documentation regarding that investment. Average daily receipts from the sale of food that are at least 51% of the total daily receipts of the restaurant. This will be primarily a food-based operation, and the applicant certainly intends to abide by and meet that 51% requirement. The property is part of the newly redeveloped Broadway Market, which is owned by the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. And again, it includes this north shed as well as the outdoor plaza directly to the north as part of the premises. The applicant, Mr. Hahn, is standing to my right. He's familiar with the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board. He pledges to abide by them. Mr. Hahn has held a license, excuse me, at 800 North Charles Street, trading as Doobie's since 2013, where he maintains, excuse me, a record free of any issues brought before the board. He was born in Baltimore in 1986. He lives in Elkridge, Maryland. Applicant Mr. Joseph Sacchetti III is not present. However, he is the applicant who is also familiar with the rules and regulations of the Liquor Board, pledges to abide by them. He was born in Baltimore in 1959 and is a city resident. The applicants, as well as the Baltimore Public Markets Corporation and members of the city administration, have conducted an extensive outreach program that I'd like to more fully document for you and submit.
Can I just clarify something? Because my notes say that Joseph Piazza.
That's correct.
Correct. Did I say Sacchetti?
You did.
It's Piazza.
It's Piazza. That was probably named from another application that I left in an outline. I apologize. Regarding the outreach to the community, there were several dates where either members of the administration, Baltimore Public Markets Corporation, or Mr. Hahn himself attended various meetings with the Fells Point Task Force, as well as other stakeholders in the Fells Point area. And the dates of those meetings were July 26, 2017, November 29, 2017, January 9, 2018, January 29, 2018, March 27, 2018, March 28, 2018, May 30th, 2018, June 29, 2018, September 26, 2018, and most recently October 3rd and October 9th, 2018. There was extensive email outreach, including weekly updates from the Markets Corporation to these stakeholders. The stakeholders included various members of various community organizations. I think I have a list of who those individuals were.
We were handed this morning an email from the Fells Point Community Organization.
Yeah, was that Ms. Massapust's email? Yes, we're familiar with that email.
Must be on the second page. I can't.
Here's the list. So the list of, excuse me, stakeholders that were included in this extensive outreach were Ms. Massapust from the Fells Point Community Organization, David Martz from the Fells Point Resident Association, Misty Keynes from Fells Point Main Street. I believe you have a letter of support from her. Marcus Brightly from the Waterfront Partnership, Eric Sanza, Waterfront Partnership, Jeffrey Dewberry, the Preservation Society, David Gleason, the Preservation Society, Delegate Brooke Learman, and Councilman Zeke Combe were all part of this community outreach. I also have, for the record, a copy of all the extensive email history between the applicants and the stakeholders in
So
the
it looks
area.
like, with the exception of Ms. Massapust, is that her name? Massapust, that there's support?
That is our understanding, yes.
What's the reason for her opposition?
Well, I'll reference her email, and I can address each of her points briefly if you would like.
I mean, but she's met with you all and discussed these things?
Yes, she has.
Okay. And what are the sticking points?
Well, we're at a loss, frankly, as to the rationale behind the sticking points, but obviously there are some from her perspective. Her first point is that there are 74 liquor licenses in Fells Point, and that they don't want another liquor license, which I guess I can understand to some extent. However, this is a very unique Class B license request. This public market project is certainly unique. The services and amenities for the community are certainly unique. I think there's certainly a public need and desire for this type of license. Again, I think maybe there's concern as to the number of licenses in the area, which I understand is a factor for you to consider, but I think given the nature of the application and the project, that argument should fail. There was a statement in the email about the number of tables, that there will be an inside bar, that merchants will be allowed to serve beverages, and Ms. Massapust states that it's not known how many merchants there will be at this time. I want to make it very clear to the board that this application is for one license, for one licensee, and there will be one outlet, one, for the lack of a better term, kiosk, bar, however you want to describe it, that's located in the center of the interior of the market that will be the outlet for the alcohol sales. And there's not going to be, and as we get further into her email, she tries to compare this project to Cross Street, which I think the board remembers I represented that project as well. I would say these are certainly apples and oranges when it comes to the type of project we're talking about here. Number one, this is a Class B license request. As you recall, the Cross Street Market was granted a Class B PML license pursuant to an entirely different state law. The Cross Street Market is going to have several different outlets within it based on various restrictions in that state law where alcohol will be served. This is a Class B for a single licensee who is running a restaurant inside the market. She says that the operator plans to have outdoor tables open till at least 1 a.m. I think there's some misunderstandings regarding hours. We're not certainly looking to get into any type of back and forth as to restrictions. We feel we should be granted the same type of license that was granted to the South Shed, and it should be consistent with the license that was granted to the South Shed. I believe our intended core hours, if you will, for lack of a better term, will be to 11 p.m. during the weekdays, but we certainly would have the ability on the weekends, given the market conditions, to be able to operate under the guidelines and parameters of our license. There was a complaint about security, patrons bringing drinks outside, et cetera. I don't think this is any different than any other concern of any other restaurant along Fame Street in Fells Point that has outdoor table service. As you know, the zoning code for the city permits outdoor table service by right now, and the zoning code defines outdoor table service as a place outside where someone can consume food or, and the key word being or, drinks, and that's defined in the zoning code. Any concerns over security, et cetera, I believe are law enforcement concerns. I don't necessarily think they are issues directly to be addressed by the granting or denial of a liquor license. Her last statement is, in the event that the concept of this market fails, we'd be left with a liquor license for a large space on South Broadway, which wouldn't be good for the community. Obviously, I want to make it clear, we're not asking for a BD7 here. This is a Class B restaurant license. The investment and food percentage requirements would remain with this license. And again, I think the concern would be if this was somehow a BD7 tavern type license. So those are the points that she raised.
Does she represent?
She represents the Fells, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't at every community meeting, members of the administration were,
Somebody
the
back
Fells
here
Point
who
Community Association.
Wave to you.
I'm sorry.
But have you been sworn?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name?
Seth Barkman.
Seth.
Barkman, B-A-R-K-M-A-N. I live at 1605 Eastern Avenue, about a block and a half from the North Shed that we're talking about. You probably heard from Joanne Maspos numerous times. If she was standing here, you'd be like, oh, I remember this woman. She opposes everything that comes to Fells Point, just as a general rule of thumb, if it has liquor attached to it, even when it's on streets that are totally vacant and nothing but cars get broken into them.
She personally or on behalf of her organization?
Yeah, her organization typically has between 5 and about 9 people attend. It's Fells Point's Community Association. There's also Fells Point's Residents Association, which usually has an attendance over 40 or 50 people. I'm the secretary for Douglas District Neighborhood Association, and our boundaries touch the northwest corner of the shed. So typically there are probably between 6 and 9 people at our meetings. I've been to them. They don't represent a very large percentage of the population of Fells Point. Fells Point's Residents Association is one that does that much better because they have over 100 members, and they usually have between 30 and 40 people attend. So I usually have to come to these meetings to counter her dislike for liquor all across Fells Point, but that's just a standard line that they have. As to what her motivation is, she just personally doesn't, and the other 5 or 6 people that she hangs out with and makes a neighborhood organization out of don't like new liquor licenses in Fells, so there's not much more to it than that.
And your organization supports?
Yes, we do. Yes, we got to meet with the architect and the developer. As they were going through, we didn't get to meet with Phil, but we'd met with them previously before that. Douglas District, and like I said, we go from Broadway to Bank to Fleet, and this touches on Fleet and Broadway, is the northeast or northwest corner of the shed. Our neighborhood's very excited about this. I'm here with Dave Nauman, who's been in the area. He's been living there for over 15 years now as well. Just a block and a half away is my neighbor. The shed desperately needs this license and to be a thriving, market the way that all other cities. And just to the point, the South Shed was just given a liquor license with much broader, capabilities than what Ms. Maspos is asking for here. Douglas District would also like to see the North Shed get what chop tank was given on the south shed, and we appreciate that you guys did that, and that also the operator of both the south shed and I believe the north shed as well. If the communities have problems, I know these operators. I've been at Doobie's. It's a mainstay of Baltimore. Like, these are the type of people that are going to take care of our community, and I don't see them trashing it. So I disagree with basically everything in her letter, and the vast majority of the people that I've spoken to do as well in our neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Wallman, you had indicated earlier that you've given us the breakdown on the investment.
Yes. I can.
I don't see it in my
Okay, I
packet,
can
but
certainly find another copy for you. I also have a menu and a startup pro forma from the operator that he just provided us recently. Let me find the,
and these exhibits that you gave us, how many seats do they demonstrate?
I believe it's 170, is that correct?
Do you know?
It's at least 125, but I believe the count we had at a recent conference call was 170, I believe.
Okay.
Trying to locate. Let me give you the pro forma indicating the startup, just the startup costs alone. And that's just for the bar itself.
This?
Yes, please.
Yeah. And the startup expenses alone are $311,000. I've got that pro forma. We also have the menu and the.
Well, do we have in our file the?
I should have. I just am having a hard time locating it. If you just bear with me. Here we go. It's in the application packet. Let me separate it from the packet. Get to the bottom line here. As I know
Okay,
that's
so
not what
in
you're
our
interested in.
file there is a document.
.366 million. And
Says
here's the
2.381.
Here's the documentation. I think it's what you have in front of you.
And this does not include the building.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had evidence to support this.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right,
And I was actually getting to those requirements with the next
okay.
stop
You
on
can
our
have that,
outline.
as long as we
Thank you.
have it in our file.
Okay. The other investment, or the other requirement, excuse me, for the Class BWL is the average receipts of sale to be 51%. Again, the Broadway Market will be primarily a food destination, and we're confident we can meet that requirement. And regarding the investment, you have the evidence that you just referred to of over $2 million, not including the cost of the land building improvements other than to the interior of the premises. Regarding the criteria to approve the application, this restaurant application satisfies the board's criteria pursuant to Section 12-1603C2 as follows: the public need and desire for the license. The ability to serve alcohol as a complement to all other food and services offered at the market will greatly enhance those services and improve the viability for prolonged success of the project as an anchor amenity to the neighborhood. And you've already heard from a member of the community regarding their anticipation of this anchor. The number and location of existing license holders, there are 19 BD7s, 20 Bs, 4 Ds, and 4 A licenses in the area. Again, as I've mentioned before, this B license is unique as it is part of a public market that will actually serve as an anchor and destination for other licensees will benefit from. And I would recite that as well regarding the potential effect on the existing license holders, which is another criteria for your consideration. The potential commonality or uniqueness of the services and products to be offered by the business. Again, I don't believe there'll be any other establishment quite like this new Broadway Market in all of Baltimore City. And again, Mr. Hahn or Mr. Thomas could speak to their vision regarding the project if you have any questions for them. The final consideration is the impact of the license for which the application is made on the health, safety, and welfare of the community, including issues related to crime, traffic, parking, or convenience. Again, I would parrot the testimony you've already heard from a community leader regarding that. We also have another member of the community that's here to testify in support if you care to hear from them. With that, I would submit at this time.
Okay, and you said, what types of food are going to be served?
Sure. So, to my knowledge, they're all LOIs right now. There are a couple signed leases. Some of the uses include authentic Korean food, There's also a brunch program, like a New American brunch program, available at the bar. Other vendors include existing vendors from the south side, Sal's, which is seafood, Vicky's, which is kind of like Greasy Spoon, just old school diner, and then another south side vendor that's kind of, again, in LOI phase, but for German cuisine, pierogies, Polish, sorry. Some of the other prospective LOI signers include a really awesome local ice cream maker, Thai food, South Indian cuisine, potentially barbecue, potentially produce with smoothie and fresh juices, and also potentially chicken and waffles.
And what's the anticipated opening of this?
I'm sorry.
When do you anticipate that this would be open?
Sure. So Baltimore City Public Markets is expected to open this market in February 2019.
Okay. Commissioners?
I have some questions. Mr. Hahn, I just want to confirm, no issues, liquor issues, violations at Doobie's,
That's correct.
and any with Nuna's, which I think you have a family member?
Yes, that's my wife. We haven't opened yet,
Okay.
but we hope to open in the next couple of weeks.
Any chance that the market will have a produce or anything like that? I know that's a comment made by...
Yep. So from what I know, they're in conversations with at least 2 potential vendors.
Great.
One potentially representing from Lexington Market.
Perfect.
Yep.
And this might be more of a question for Mr. Thomas, or a couple of questions. So, Mr. Thomas, are you responsible for doing the leasing? I'm just trying to understand how, or do you work in concert with the potential licensee?
No, with Baltimore Public Markets Corporation, and we do the leasing.
So it's through your quasi-governmental entity?
That's correct.
Okay. The last point Ms. Massapus made in her list of bullets struck me, but I don't think in the way that she intended. She says that in the event that the concept for this market fails, we would be left with a liquor license for a large space in the 600 block of South Broadway, which would not be good for this community. I can sort of understand her rationale, but is it empty now?
It is,
Okay.
and has been.
And has been for a number of years.
That's correct.
Okay. And just like you did with the South Market, or the South Shed, whatever the terminology is, what would you foresee as the owner? And I note that the board passed a resolution, your board passed a resolution permitting Mr. Hahn to be a licensee, something to that
correct.
effect. So if you could explain from your standpoint the vision with the licensee, recognizing the community's concerns, but if you could sort of, your vision for what this North Shed would be like. And I do think there is something to be said, and I'll stop talking shortly, for consistency between both sheds. But I'll leave that, let you answer my question, rambling.
Well, not rambling, I got it. We see that, A, the property will be revived and reinvigorated, because that's part of our lease with the city. We have to manage properties, improve the property that we're charged with managing. The other is encouraging opportunities for entrepreneurship and employment, as well as community economic development. So all of that is just part of our lease responsibility anyway, and so we'd have to do that. What the opportunity with Mr. Hahn's involvement represents is just a competitive amenity, and it improves and enhances our competitive position in that particular neighborhood and area. So it's one that's been requested by other members of the community, and it's going to help us fill out the full scope of the experience for that market.
Great. Thank you for your answer. And then lastly, and I think we asked a very similar question of the licensees at the South Shed, will you both commit, Mr. Thomas and Mr. Hahn, to continue to work with the community, assuming you get issued this license as things progress?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, what's your first name?
Robert.
No questions.
Okay, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right.
Actually, I'm sorry, just for the record, I have a copy of Mr. Hahn's certification as far as,
Okay, so all the documents that you've submitted will be received. On the basis of the materials contained in the application for the new license, the documents received today at the hearing, the testimony received by the board, I would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, liquor restaurant license requesting outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
I concur and vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor license requesting outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages on the same grounds that my colleague mentioned.
Based on the evidence, the investment that far surpasses the $500,000 requirement, the seating capacity that exceeds 125, I too would join my colleagues in voting to approve a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor license with outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and the delivery of alcoholic beverages. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
thank you.
You may wonder why I'm wearing a black bow tie today. I'd just like to publicly remember our good friend Peter Auchincloss, who was the chair of the City Planning Commission for a number of years, who sadly unexpectedly passed away yesterday, and that's why I'm wearing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wallman.
Thanks.
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, one letter of opposition. Board Exhibit 2, 6 letters of support. Applicant Exhibit 1, business plan. Applicant Exhibit 2, email history. And Applicant Exhibit 3, alcohol awareness certification.
One 1500 Hanover LLC, trade name pending, 1500 South Hanover Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service. Mr. Chairman, the address of 1500 South Hanover Street appears on the non-conforming zoning list and must conform to the new zoning standards.
Thank you.
For the record, Melvin J. Kaninsky representing the applicants.
Good morning. Gentlemen, please raise your right hands.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This is a transfer of an existing location. In this particular case, Mr. Wilkins been on the license for the last 5 or 6 years, so it's going to be a continuation of the operation. Mr. Paddock has had extensive operation experience working in various places in that general area. They are familiar with the neighborhood. The prior people who were in there apparently weren't able to go forward, so they have a chance to go ahead and take over and open this particular place back up. They have a use and occupancy certificate for outdoor table service, and they will abide by the rules and regulations of the liquor board and also make sure the alcohol certified.
Which one of you gentlemen is Mr. Paddock? Oh, okay, and so what is your experience, sir?
You got to come over here a little closer now.
I've been assistant manager at Delia Foley's,
For how long?
5 years.
So, and you're certified, alcohol certified?
No.
No, are you going to get?
He will, yeah.
Okay, and you're familiar with our rules and regulations?
Yes.
Okay. Note for the record, I don't believe that this licensee has any violations on his record, so. Do you have any questions? Okay, anything further, Mr. Kaninsky?
No, submit.
All right, on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffer from counsel and testimony, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve the transfer with the continuation of the outdoor table service.
Good luck.
No exhibits.
Scan that and send it.
Venice Tavern, Little Italy, Inc., trading as Venice Tavern, Little Italy, 1018 Eastern Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
For the record, again, Melvin J. Kaninsky representing the applicants in this case.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May I ask them to raise their right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Kaninsky?
This is a transfer of an existing location. It's been there. Mr. DeSantis was on the license years ago when it was there. You may or may not be familiar. It's off of Central Avenue next to La Scala. You played bocce ball there. I saw you in the basement there. The thing on operates a smaller place in conjunction with the other places that are in the area. Mr. DeSantis has had experience having operated a place. His family's been in the business selling DeSantis pizzas. I'm sure you're familiar with them. And they are familiar with the Little Italy organizations down there and plan on making sure they can stay in contact with them as well as their fellow licensees. They'll all be alcohol certified and also are familiar with the rules and regulations of the liquor board.
And who's going to run the place?
Mr. DeSantis.
You are. And do you have actual experience handling alcoholic beverages?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
Were there any issues with the license that he was previously on? Violations?
When he was there from before, no.
And there's none on this license, so. Okay, thank you. Then, on the basis of the materials contained in the application, proper from council and testimony, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve the transfer.
Good luck.
No exhibits.
Robin and Maya LLC, trading as Alonzo's, 415 West Cold Spring Lane. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership under Article 12-1605, small e, number 1-2. Please come forward.
For the record, Melvin J. Kanansky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the applicants.
Good morning. I'm sorry. Will those who are going to testify please raise your right hands?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This is an application to transfer an existing license at one time in your life when we were going through high school, college, you've probably been at Alonzo's. If you haven't, you should have been. Mr. Alpert has a place door down Namaste's, a restaurant. He's been there for last several years. Mr. Summers is the existing licensee. He's going to stay on. They're both familiar with the rules and regulations of the liquor board. They have had extensive, and I must say, a lot of meetings with the community groups who are here to my left. They have come with an MOU. Let me make sure it's the same one. I'm pretty sure it's the one that I think Brian had sent me. I don't know.
Yep.
Okay. It's just my staple came apart. I have to submit a copy of the MOU.
This is executed?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need an original. It's a copy of the originals that they have.
Okay.
And like I said, they've had extensive, and if you look in the back, there's plenty of community groups that they have met with over a period of time and made various agreements in there. And I'll ask Mr. Upperty, you state your name and address for the record, please.
Binod Upreti, 332 Stevenson Lane, apartment B5000, Maryland 21204.
And you executed that agreement after numerous meetings with the community, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You're familiar with the terms and conditions therein?
Yes,
You agreed to have those terms and conditions be part of the transfer and part of the license, correct?
correct.
You understand that?
Yes.
And these ladies, would you introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. My name is Neetu Davangray, the president of Keswick Improvement Association. Sorry.
Say your name again, 'cause I couldn't hear it.
Absolutely. Neetu Davangray, president of Keswick Association. NEETU, last name D as in David, HAWAN-GRAY.
Were you with the Commission on Aging?
Yes, I was.
I knew you. You were the guardian in many
Yes.
cases. Okay. I signed a lot of those orders once.
Thank
upon a
you.
time. And your name?
I'm Christine McSherry. I represent Roland Park Civic League.
And you I know as well. So the signatories to this MOU are the Roland Park Civic League, Keswick Improvement Association, and Evergreen Community Association, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And,
Evergreen had to drop out of the agreement, so they've dropped out of
Oh,
the
okay.
coalition.
okay.
So
But
it's signed by Roland Park Civic League and Keswick Improvement Association.
Okay, and you all support the transfer of this license subject to these terms?
Yes.
We do.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
Is Mr. Upperty the only operator manager of the establishment?
He has the Indian restaurant next door, Namaste.
In other words, is Mr. Summers a part of the operation?
Yeah, he's not a part of the Namaste. He's been the licensee at Alonzo's for the past 7 or 8 years. He's going to stay on for a period of time. In addition to that, I do have some letters of support, one from Dr. Bruce Hyatt, Roland Park Vision Services, Cold Spring Subway, and Thompson Remodeling Company.
Okay, they'll be received. Commissioner, you have questions?
Yes, so we're here because of this transfer of ownership, and as I understand, Mr. Kadensky, a new state law, right, which allows Mr. Upretti to
Have a second.
have a second license, and we waive the minimum investment and the seating capacity
Correct, this
based
is an
upon that.
existing license.
And so our requirement under the new statute, as I understand, is we have to hold a public meeting, which we're now doing, and we need to review the licensee's business practice. Can you speak to that? We need to determine that he
He's-
is in good standing and has a reputable business practice. So if you could,
He's been over at Namaste for the last several years operating a restaurant, and most of the people that are here can say that he's been, very successful, and he's very accommodating to the neighborhood. He will continue this in the second venue that he's having there. Mr. Summers has been there for the time he'll stay on, so as far as the operation, it's going to be pretty seamless at the time. If you're going to ask either one of the ladies here, I'm sure they'll say they're satisfied with Mr. Uppitty's operation of Namaste.
right, so no history of violations to date. He's active in good standing. His corporate entity, 311, 0 calls, and the board inspections have 7 times over the past year. He's been found in compliance.
Correct.
Okay, I have nothing further.
Nothing further.
Anything else?
I'll submit.
Okay, on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the various exhibits that have been received, and in particular, the memorandum of understanding between the applicant and the Roland Park Civic League and Keswick Improvement Association, proffers from counsel and testimony, I would vote to approve the transfer subject to the terms of the MOU to the extent they're enforceable by law.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer of ownership, subject to the MOU to the extent the terms are enforceable by law.
So I, too, support the transfer of the ownership, finding the licensee in good standing and with reputable business practice, and would agree with my colleagues to attach the MOU to the license to the extent it's permitted by law.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Ms. Shirley's Management Company dated 6/18/18. Applicant Exhibit 1, MOU. Applicant Exhibit 2, 3 letters of support. Thank you.
Scan it and send it to me.
Charles Tavern LLC, trading as Charles Street Tavern, 527 North Charles Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service and requesting off-premise catering. Please come forward.
For the record, again, Melvin J. Kadensky representing the applicant.
Good morning. Sir, would you raise your right hand, please?
How do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And you're Mr. Biabani?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For the record, this Mr. Biabani owns numerous pieces of property on Charles Street, 2 or 3 pieces on the 300 block. This was, as you might remember, I keep saying these places, I don't get a response as whether they ever been there before. Sasha's, used to be Sasha's Restaurant.
I know
for a
Sasha's,
long period of
yes.
time on the corner. He had purchased the property a little over a year and a half ago. They're trying to find a tenant. He doesn't, once it's going to be transferred, he's going to actively try to get a person, a restaurant person in there to run the place. I saw the letter that somebody had sent. He doesn't know this person, never met the person. He's not requesting live entertainment or the outdoor table service. There are 2 two-tops out in front just for some ambiance.
I don't know what letter you're referring to.
Oh,
Oh. Someone is objecting.
somebody from the consulate condominium, I don't.
Glenn
Yeah, I
Delwin.
think they think it's going to be a place that's going to have live entertainment or something. There's no request for live entertainment. It's just to be a continuous Sasha's Restaurant with off-premises catering and a couple 2-tops out in front, just to add some ambience to the neighborhood as much as, the Italian restaurant up the place. It's not going to have a plethora of tables out in front.
How long has it been closed?
About a year and a half. About a year and a half. They applied for a hardship, and then we had to apply for a transfer to Mr. Biabani in order to keep the license active.
Any outreach to the community? I mean, this looks like,
I don't think he says he's the community, because that's a,
that's true, that's fair enough.
and he's been there that whole time. He said, no,
Well, he's the president of the condo association, but I guess the larger question is not so much about this, but what efforts have been to educate the surrounding property owners?
He's been there talking to the people in the area. I think all of them liked when Sasha's was there, and he wants to try to continue that same type of operation. And, you know, it was right down on the corners of Mount Vernon. You have 7-Eleven that's there. There's a lot of traffic. It's not a very big place. Sasha's not very big. He has apartments upstairs, which are not part of the overall use.
So, you know, so one of the, if you could comment on this, you live in Chevy Chase. You have, it sounds like you have a number of different interests, which is great.
Yes.
But how do you intend to manage something like this? Because what I didn't hear from Mr. Kudinski was when you get a licensee in, it didn't sound like you were going to transfer the license. It sounded instead like you're going to have someone manage it, which I understand. How will you manage this in conjunction with everything else and living an hour away?
Sure. We're looking for the right operator. I have several venues in DC that are pretty large, and I usually oversee them, but I don't operate them. I always find the right person that's in the business, has had a lot of history. Actually, I've spoken with a few restaurateurs that were interested in the space. Some of them were startups, and I just didn't feel that they would really make it. So I just didn't think it'd be a good fit. I didn't want something to go in there and then close again and have that repeat. So it's been difficult to find someone. We're looking for the right fit. You know, there's a lot of people that are kind of at the cusp of starting something new, but didn't have the capital, the business acumen, I thought, to be a good tenant. So we're just trying to wait for the right person.
Is it going to require a lot of renovation?
Yeah, a little bit. It has a lot of the infrastructure since it was a restaurant and catering place before, but we've done a bit of a facelift already, minor, on the inside to be able to attract new people. But we're trying to look for the right operator for the area.
And he owns 2 or 3 pieces of property in Brown's Arcade, which is right here down the street. So he's familiar with that area, plus another half a dozen properties, both in Maryland and then some in the DC area. So he's making an investment. And I think one of the best things of this whole thing is, and you're going to ask me what it is, but I'll tell you anyhow, is that he's young. And it's nice to see young people coming into the city and making investments and going further rather than old people like me.
Well, I have to concur.
I knew that was coming.
Okay, anything further? All right, thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council, testimony, and exhibit received, I would vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve the transfer with the continuation of outdoor table service, off-premise catering, but would encourage you to reach out to as many people as you can in that neighborhood.
Sure.
Good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, letter of opposition dated October 1st, 2018.
Nobody agreed that I'm old. Okay.
Axios Bond Street LLC, trade name pending, 529 South Bond Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment. Please come forward.
For the record, Melvin J. Kudensky representing the licensee, Mr. Diamond.
Good morning. Ms. Diamond, would you raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
This is this place has been there for a long time. It's right across the street from the H&S Bakery. Had a lot of people there. I mean, I grew up at 1614 Eastern Avenue, which is a block away. We used to know it as Tugboat Ann's, and there was a lot of people who would come there, worked in the area, would be able to eat and have something to drink. The group that Mr. Diamond's associated with bought the building. Mr. Paul Oliver, who owns Delicios, owned the property and so forth, and was making the transition over to Mr. Diamond. He's in a similar type situation as the other gentleman, is that the group that's in that associated with the H&S people are trying to maintain the property in that area and find the appropriate person to come in. He has talked with the what's it, the Douglas?
President, yeah, the Douglas District
Yeah,
Association.
Yeah, they're called, the fellow was just up here before, it's called the Douglas District, and they're in favor and enthused that they would be able to reopen this place that's been closed for a while, and if and when they operate, he'll make sure he's familiar with the rules and regulations, liquor board, and also be alcohol certified.
Who has the license now?
Well, it was coming from a gentleman who had originally been in there, is it Juan Portillo?
How long has he
Juan
had it?
Portillo. Juan had been there for a long time.
Okay, so the violations that go back to 2016, 2012, they were his violations?
Yeah, yeah. He
Yeah,
had-
I'm sorry.
They had an incident in there when he was in there that was rather tragic at the time, but then he's been out of there, and Mr. Oliver, who had the lien, had to wind up taking it back. He and, you might know Mr. Gene Rayner, they were partners in this project here, and then Mr. Oliver was looking to find somebody to come in, and they had an auction, and his group bought it at the auction.
And that was 90 days ago,
Yeah.
less than 90 days.
Okay, and your experience, Mr. Diamond?
My experience in operating restaurants, yeah, I don't have any. I just enjoy going to them.
And what is your background?
Real estate. So actually, I'm a corporate attorney, and then real estate, so development.
Okay,
We own properties in Baltimore City, Baltimore County.
okay. And you recognize that you're going to have to abide by our rules and regulations, or else you'll be back here and paying Mr. Kadensky great
Absolutely.
fees to save you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioners have questions? Okay. Thank you. On the basis of the materials contained in the application and proffer from council and testimony, I vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve transfer with continuation of live entertainment.
Good luck.
Thank you.
No exhibits.
I am on my way to Philadelphia to go to Venice, Italy, as we speak.
Well, enjoy.
Did you just have a client in here before that was Venice?
Little Venice.
Little
I'm
Venice.
going to the big Venice.
So you're going to Big
okay?
Venice?
You're only going to Venice?
2 days. I'm going on a ship, and I'm going to go to Herzegovina down the Adriatic. I'm going to see some of our Greek friends. Get more cane, scala, you know? And then
Enjoy.
buongiornos. Grazie.
Have fun.
Enjoy.
PPR Venture One LLC.
Page, 1 second.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't on the record during that conversation.
Sure, no problem, thank you. PPR Venture One LLC, trading as Pico Ramen, 7 East 33rd Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership and location of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 3333 North Charles Street to 7 East 33rd Street, requesting outdoor table service. Please come forward.
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of PPR Venture One LLC, known as Pico Ramen. With me is David Forster, the sole licensee for this application.
Forster, would you raise your right hand, please?
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
What's going on with this, Mr. Hurdle?
This is a situation where the existing business is actually open and operating. It's been open and operating for about a year and a half. The size of the location makes it so they cannot get a new restaurant license. They don't have 75 seats, and therefore they can't apply under the exception rule that exists under the law. A Class B license became available that made sense about a block and a half away. They know many people in the community. We met with the community. We have an MOU with the Charles Village Association as well as a letter of support. I have a couple copies of that.
The copy I have is unexecuted, but have you executed this?
Yes, this is
MOU?
an executed copy. It's not a wedding signature, but it is a duplicate of that document.
You just provide it to Ms. Russell, that's fine.
Thank you.
And I do have a letter of support.
We have that as well from Kirsch Jones, President. Okay.
The operations of the business will stay essentially the same. The only difference is they will add alcohol service. We believe that the alcohol will continue to be just a small portion of the overall sales. Again, currently it's 100%, food and non-alcohol sales. It'll provide additional income, but that's the extent of it. Mr. Forster and I have sat down and gone over the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board, including have to order liquor from wholesalers, carding, and how to best kind of go through that process. He'll be taking the alcohol awareness class shortly. The location, he is requesting outdoor table service, which is a matter of right, as has been discussed today, for a restaurant license. And again, this location's been open for a year and a half. He's got 4.5 years of experience in the restaurant industry. And it just seems to be a good business decision for this location at this time. Does the board have any questions for me or for Mr. Forster?
Mr. Forster, what's your background?
I am a Hopkins graduate turned restaurateur,
And you're going to be in the Hopkins area, right?
right across the street from the JHU Barnes & Noble.
Which is my neighborhood, so you better operate it well.
I will.
Okay.
He loves the college hangouts. He really does. Where do you think he's going tonight? He's got a college class tonight. I'm always sensitive to, particularly sensitive to a transfer of location and ownership. And I think for good reason. But I want to make sure I understood your proffer, Mr. Hurdle, which is that in the current location where Mr. Forster currently operates, it's not big enough to set up a kitchen, but this
No,
please, go
Sorry,
ahead.
and I apologize for
I
interrupting.
may have missed.
Mr. Forster currently runs Pico Pico Ramen at 3200 North Charles Street. It's been open and operational for a year and a half. The license is coming from what was PJ's Pub, which now has a home slice. The issue at Pico Pico is they don't have the 75 seats required to meet the requirement to get a license issued.
To get a new.
Correct. So we had to find a license to transfer that was financially viable for all the parties involved, and this one came available and ultimately meets all the right criteria.
So explain to me why you were transferring location.
Well, the license is currently at PJ's Pub, which is at 3333 North Charles, and he's at 3200. So he's going to stay at 3200, but the license is.
All right, so it's just a
Sorry.
function of just where you're
License is
currently set
moving.
up. We don't get enough of these, so that's why
Sure,
I'm
yeah,
probably
he-
sensitive, because I'm not.
His
fluent.
business is exactly where it's going to be. Nothing's changing
Just
about it.
transferring the license back to, which I understand,
To him.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have good relationships with the community nearby, clearly, and the MOU, I give you a lot of credit for doing that in advance,
Mm-hmm.
so, all right.
And you're willing to have the terms of this be a condition on your license?
Absolutely.
I'm referring to the MOU. Yeah, okay.
That's what it's there for.
Okay, thank you then. On the basis of the materials contained in the application, proffers from council, testimony, the letter of support received from the Charles Village Civic Association, memorandum of understanding between the owner of Peko Peko Ramen and the Charles Village Civic Association, the terms of which, if this is approved, would be conditioned on the license to the extent enforceable by law. I would vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the license on the same grounds as represented by Judge Matriciani.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer of ownership and location with outdoor table service and attaching the MOU to the license to the extent it's permitted by law.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you. May we be excused?
You may.
Thank you.
Michael Exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Charles Village Civic Association. Board Exhibit 2, MOU. Applicant Exhibit 1, signed MOU. Thank you.
Was that the morning docket, Mr. Page?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until 1 p.m.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Larry doesn't bark.
They complain, but we have a little gift for you.
Oh, wow.
Another year, another outfit. Halloween is coming.
Okay. Well, should I open it now?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
If you have to sit through all these too, then, and you want to.
The gift that keeps giving.
Oh, wow.
It's a nightshirt.
Fantastic. Very nice.
Larry.
Appreciate
Larry.
it.
Show me.
Agent Kristen Malice has your badge.
Unofficial if I wear it, so. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I'll fit you. for the
Appreciate
year.
it.
There's a man who lives in my building, and if there were no Orioles, he would be naked all the time. He wears nothing but Oriole attire.
You got 2 shirts.
Fantastic.
I think that's a long sleeve, Larry. A long and short sleeve.
That's great.
Thank you for
again.
all you do.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's get on the record.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Now begins the PM session of the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. Preliminary matters, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Case number 12022 North Charles Street. An application to transfer ownership has been postponed. I call the case of Penn and Quail at the Chesapeake, 1701-05 North Charles Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service. Please come forward.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you ladies, are you an attorney?
No.
No, okay. Would you raise your right hands then, both of you, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Names, please?
Naomi Karzai?
Good afternoon. Okay. So you're here on an application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service. Do you want to tell us what's going on?
We have been operating under a management agreement with the current liquor license, and they would no longer like to proceed with that, so we're going to transfer, if possible, to be under my name.
And you all have been operating this for how long?
Since August of 2014.
Okay. And for the record, I note that you've had no violations.
No.
And how large an operation is it? How many people do you employ?
Probably 20 people between the kitchen and front of house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the people who handle the alcohol are alcohol certified?
Yes.
Go
you
ahead.
managing it?
Yes. Yep.
And we have a letter of support from the Station North Arts and Entertainment, Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So nothing's going to change. It's just that you're going to go on the
Exactly.
license. Is that correct?
Precisely. Yep.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Commissioners? Okay. Thank you. Then on the basis of the materials contained in your application and your testimony and the letter of support that will be received, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve the transfer with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service.
Good luck.
Thanks a million.
Thank you. Exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Station North Arts and Entertainment dated 9/18/18. Thank you.
Did you all have B?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to B? Is it ever going to open again?
Yes, actually, we just transferred the license probably 6 weeks ago.
Was it that? Yeah. it was-
Yeah.
Good.
It will be opening in, I think, the spring, like February, March.
Yeah, I do recall now. Remember
Yes.
that?
In Bolton Hill?
Yes.
Rudra LLC, trading as Donald's Place, 401 North Munford Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
Counsel?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Frank Boozer on behalf of the applicants and Boudra LLC, 401 North Montfort.
Good afternoon. Would you ladies raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Boozer?
Mr. Chairman, as a matter of, I would call, without using a fancy Latin term, stare decisis, this exact case was actually set in front of the board back on August 3rd, 2017. Same applicants, same application. Nothing such has changed. Unfortunately, and much to our dismay, before the checklist could be completed, Mr. Donald E. Blanks passed away on December 2017. I was going to bring a copy of the death certificate. I didn't think it would be necessary.
Was he one of the people to whom it was being transferred,
He
or
was
from?
the seller, the sole seller. And I have a copy of the letter from his estate attorneys, Michael W. Davis of Davis, Agner, and Rappaport of Columbia, if I may make the exhibit. Licensees 1 to the board. Nothing has changed since the prior application. Like I said, it expired because we weren't able to complete the application. Unless you hear any testimony from the applicants, again, everything's exactly the same as the first time we appeared in front of the board and had it approved.
Okay, so now the personal representative is selling the license on behalf of the estate?
That is correct.
Okay.
And actually, it's gone on so long that the applicants in this case are actually going to buy the building as well. We're in those negotiations, so. And more of a
If we
technical.
keep it going, maybe they'll buy the whole block.
I'll have to ask them. But Judge, that's what we find ourselves in front of the board here today.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffer from counsel, the letter which will be received, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I, too, vote to approve the transfer.
Good luck.
Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thank you.
Mr. Boozer. Like Exhibit for the record. Applicant Exhibit 1, email dated January 24th, 2018. Thank you.
Hanover Tap House LLC, trading as Hanover Tap House, 1101 South Hanover Street. This is a Class B beer wine, a beer and wine license. Application to transfer ownership and location of a Class B beer and wine license presently located within the Cross Street Market to 1101 South Hanover Street, requesting outdoor table service and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Previs on behalf of the applicants. Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request a postponement of this matter. This is a transfer to a new location, and all of the plans aren't ready for an intelligent presentation to the board at this point.
How far out do you want to put it?
I understand they still need the architect drawings.
I mean, 30 days, 60 days?
60 days.
Mr. Page, can we set it back in about 60 days?
We can, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Continuance would be granted.
December.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Filippo's Pizzeria, 418-26 South Conkling Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Request to add live entertainment. Please come forward.
Anybody present? Mr. Singh? Do we have service on Mr. Singh? Not that it really
Well,
matters.
it's a letter that we sent.
Do you want to just set this back in at another date?
We will, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
For that one?
Yes.
Okay. Cinemax Maryland LLC, trading as Cinebistro at the Rotunda, 711 West 40th Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. Request for transfer hardship extension under Article 12-1705, small b. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Leanne Schreckengoss with Royston Muller McLean and Reed here on behalf of the applicants. We are here to request a hardship extension and to the end that it's now completed. So all the checklist is now done. There was a hang-up with respect to the entity holding the business license, which has now been corrected, and the file and checklist are now complete.
So if we can set it in at the earliest date, is that okay with you?
We can just, if you just approve the hardship,
Oh.
we'll pick it up on Monday.
Oh, okay. All right, do the commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, on the basis then of your letter and your update, here on the record, I would vote to approve the hardship extension.
I concur and vote to approve the hardship extension.
I too vote to approve the hardship extension for a period of 90 days.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. That has to be the shortest docket you've had in a long time.
Yes, 15 minutes.
It's Larry's doing. He extended it.
What's that?
Larry extended it a bit. But
Have a good afternoon.
you too.
Thank
Thank you.
I believe that's our afternoon docket, Mr. Page.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until 5 p.m. Thursday, October the 25th, 2018, for evening hearings.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.